This corner of my fish room is doing really well apart from one tank. Now for me, when a tank hasn't got fish in it, I tend to just neglect it and let it get overrun, and eventually that causes its demise, and that is the case here. This tank used to be home to a betta fish of mine that actually died of old age. So today I want to break the whole thing down and start again. I've got something really cool in mind. I mean, you've probably seen the thumbnail, so you know that. Let's just get on with it. So usually I like to save all the gravel and substrate system to be used in another project, but in this one I used a load of soil underneath and I'm not sure on the amount, or I just think it's a really good idea to start fresh. And as usual, I'm scraping down all the sides with a razor blade. This is the absolute fastest and best way to get the tank clean again. It takes minimal effort and minimal time. So that's the tank all nice and clean. I don't know why I'm hunched in the corner here. I can actually move it all out now. I'll do that in a second. I want to change the lighting on it. This is quite close to the tank. And we're doing a Paludarium, which means stuff's coming right up out the water, including the big peace lily that I'm going to be putting in there as well. So I want to get a light that comes a lot higher. I've got one, but it needs risers. So I'm going to have to order them separately. Don't worry about that. I'll show you in a second when I put it all on. Okay, there we go. I think that's a much more workable set for the build video. I'm actually going to use this cheap little hang on the back filter again. It's going to work really well. I'll give the sponge a rinse out, but that's about it. Doesn't need a full clean. You're not even going to see it. So I'm going to put it in the middle like this and then build rocks around it so that the waterfall area just goes and cascades all over the rocks, and we can keep our mosses or any sort of plants that are out of the water column. They'll stay nice and moist and the roots should grow into the water then. That should work really well. Fingers crossed anyway. I've not done it before. Okay, a couple of things to note. I put the thing back because it looked weird or pulled out. Second of all, we've got the light on now. And third of all, I did clean that. It was doing my head and I couldn't have it that dirty. But yeah, this is a really cheap budget light here. It doesn't come with these risers. It comes with these risers, which are much shorter. And I wanted to get that extra height, so I bought these separate. It doesn't fit perfectly, but it's decent and it doesn't wobble and it's sturdy. So yeah, I'll leave links to all this stuff if you guys are interested. So there we go, we've got our sort of canvas, haven't we? And the first thing I want to do in this one is add in our sand, because I'm going to be building quite a lot of rock at the back and the sand will cushion it and enable it to sort of lock into place a lot better. Now before we put in the sand, I'm going to do what I always do, and that is put some aqua soil down first. I'm going to put it in little media bags. Don't worry, the roots of any plants can penetrate these bags. It just keeps the soil locked in one place. Now I'm not going to be planting really heavy down in the bottom section where the betta fish are. It just keeps the pH level lower in general, but just like slightly below 7, which is always better. The lower the pH level, the less chance of ammonia spikes and that kind of thing. Now I'm not talking about toxic levels of ammonia spikes. I'm talking enough to cause algae. So if you can get aqua soil in your scape, and not, if you don't want it showing, that's fine as well. You can cap it with sand like I do. But get some aqua soil in there if you can afford it. If you can't, it's all right. Just you have to be really, really careful with lighting levels and that kind of thing. I mean, we shouldn't have any problems with light levels in this tank because it's so far above. Plus, there's going to be plants all sort of exploding at the top. And they're going to suck up loads of nitrates as well, the roots in the water. Okay, here's our aqua soil. There's like little bits of gravel and that in it too because I recycled it. I've taken it out of another setup that I'd finished with. Bowl just to catch anything that drips. And then here's the media bag. Look, there you can see it's all meshed. Roots go in it fine. It's got like plastic zipper on it as well. That locks everything in. It doesn't float around your tank then, because even if you cap with sand, aqua soil will work its way up. It just always does in some way. And this stops that happening, which is a godsend for me because there's nothing worse than your scape being ruined by stray bits of aqua soil going all over your nice clean white sand. Good, that'll work nicely. Well, no, that won't work nicely. Whoops, get off there. So obviously that doesn't look very good, does it? So we need to cap the whole thing now with some sand. And down here I've got some, it's a quartz-based sand, so a little bit like pool filter sand. To be fair, they're probably the same stuff they use. They're just giving it an aquarium label on it. And then we just pour that in. Blech. Now this is a personal thing, I don't know about you, but I always like it in an aquarium when you've got like a good inch of sort of the substrate on show at the front. I just think it frames it and it looks better. For instance, this one here, I didn't do that. Like many aquascapers, they like, oh, that's too dark. Yeah, many aquascapers, they like to pull it to the foreground like this and just like keep it as flat as possible. And I just think you lose some, I don't know, realism or something like that. It's hard to explain, but look at that one there, then this one. So this is my albino cherry barb tank. Now, I just think the whole thing just works better when you've got that little bit of depth. Again, it's personal, maybe you don't, but look how gorgeous these fish are. Look at you, look at you. Anyway, now that we've got that sand bed in, we can start adding in the Cereus stone I'm going to use to pile up at the back. Cereus stone's really good for this because it's all sort of angular and it can interlock quite easily with weird shapes and angles and things. And out here is my Hardscape select, well, some of my Hardscape selection. Oh, that's a little sucky thing. Yep. And we've actually got quite a good amount of Cereus stone to choose from at the moment. I've got all these pieces here, I've got all those pieces there, some at the back there, some behind there. Oh yeah, that reminds me, someone commented on one of my videos the other day, I really like the selection in your shop for the stuff. This is not a shop, this is my own personal like collection. Over the years I've built it up, and every time I break down a tank, obviously if I don't reuse that piece in another one, it goes up there. Plus every time I go to the fish shop, if I see something I like, I just buy it, because like you never know when you're going to see that piece you like again. Like you might go back there, it's gone. So grab those opportunities. If you see something you like, it's worth it. I mean, I know these pieces are expensive, but 15 quid for a piece of wood, which is about $20. It depends what the size is as well, doesn't it? I tend to most of the time get smaller pieces, even rock and wood, and then I'll combine them so that they look like one, because it tends to be cheaper ongoing. Because something about going in a shop and spending like £100 or $150 or something like that, like 150 euros on one piece is like, it's kind of scary. Unless that is the main showpiece in your like home, then you know you can justify it. You probably save for the project, but most of the time I just grab little pieces and bring them home. So there we have the start of a basic wall. Now that's unsafe, quite frankly. Look at the gap we've got behind. I need to fill the gap in. I'm going to do that using much coarser stone than we've used so far. Well, we haven't used any, but little gravel is what I'm trying to say. Like big pieces of gravel will fill that area in. You won't really see them because we're going to fill all the gaps with, you know, like Anubias or something like that. Probably just Anubias. I don't want Java fern in this one. It's going to be too big down in this section, I think. So we're going to use the gravel. It'll also act as a place, as like a sort of natural filtration. It'll allow the water through, which means that our filter will be able to pick it up, and also allow it to cascade through as well. So again, another form of filtration, and a great place for all our roots to come down as well from our peace lily that's going to be sitting in the top section. Right, I'm absolutely loving that so far. It looks like some sort of valley, and we've got really good sort of depth perception with it. I don't know, it just feels like you could put a little man down there. It feels like a mountain. But I'm feeling like there's too much openness in this foreground, so I just want to put one more rock in this area, and we can build around that just a little bit for a little bit of detail in that foreground, and it'll stop being so harsh, the difference between the two then, and it just brings it forwards in like a natural sort of way. Well, as natural as this can be. Yeah, that looks really great, I think. And see what I mean? It's bringing it all forwards. I want to tie it all in even more now with some little detail stones. It's the Rio Shingu, I think. I'm probably butchering that. I butcher everything. Little stones for decoration, okay? Oh, tell me that doesn't look awesome, right? It's like a real cliff face with a opening. Oh, love it. Right, what to do next? I'm trying to think of the best course of action. I think the best thing now is going to be start putting our plants in. I'm going to put the Anubias petite and that kind of thing all in these little cracks and that. Not too many, but you know, some. The main show of green on this is going to be out of the water. So we want like under the water to stay. Oh, I'm talking rubbish. I'm going to fill it up with plants, aren't I? I'm going to resist the temptation to, okay? Right, I've got a nice little selection here. These are all epiphyte plants, so you can stick them to the rock there. You don't have to plant them, they don't have to go into the substrate. They'll actually pull nutrients from the water column. Now we've got, these are all Tropica plants, by the way, really top quality. Look at them, I mean, it all speaks for itself. I've had these plants in my possession for about 2 months now, to be honest. I keep them down in a little, well, let me show you. So I keep them down here in these little tanks. I could do with a clean out actually. I'm going to take them all out soon and do refills and what have you. There's a light at the top there, 12 hours a day, just like, you know, an inch or so of water. Just put them in and forget about it. They're all good. The moisture keeps locked in and keeps the plants ticking along. Yeah, use them whenever you want. But yeah, I'm going for Anubias petite because obviously it's a small tank, so we need smaller plants. Look at the, well, if we can, there we go. Look at the detail of it. It's so beautiful, isn't it? Love it. And we've also got Bucephalandra red. It's not red, it's green, but but once it's in the tank, the underside of the leaves and some of the new one, it'll have like a reddish hue to it and should look really, really nice. And then for one main focal I wanted down in that area there, I've got a, this is the Anubias gracilis. I don't think it's gracious, that's thank you in Spanish, isn't it? But yeah, look at that. Really cool little plant, just one of those as a focal point down the bottom there. Now I've shown how to remove this many times, but I think it's always worth showing it again for those of you that don't know or need refreshing. Take the pot out like that and you're covered in this rock wall that we see here. This is full of nutrients, you see, so we don't want to put that in a tank. Now normally there's a half to it like that. What I tend to do is like break it in half and then most of the roots come away. Then you can do the other half. So if you do it in two halves, it doesn't snap any of the plant at all. So like you see there, we've still got a bit left on the roots, so I just use a fork or some tweezers or whatever and take off the majority of it like that. Bit more there. Get off. There we go. Now I've still got the roots intact, which means they'll pull nutrients from the water column to make it grow. And but there's none of that excess nutrients going into the water column. Perfect. So all those plants you can see there up until this point have been just pushed into cracks, so I haven't needed to sort of stick them at all. But this one here, the Garcia or Gracias, there's nothing to, so I want to put it down here somewhere, but there's nowhere for it to, you know, go onto. So I'm going to need to stick it. Now I don't want to stick it to that rock, so I'll stick it to its own rock, then I can place it wherever I want. And the glue we use, that you guys all know by now, is the cyanoacrylate super glue gel. This is inert basically. Once it hits the water, it's completely safe for fish, shrimp, snout, everything, plants, the lot. Yep, absolutely loving that. I'm going to fill it up and just like get all the filter running. We don't want it to dry out, you see. Also, I just want to get it all clear in that before we move on to the next phase, which we're putting in the immersed plants, the peace lily. I'm pointing at it, it's not there. Oh my goodness, we're looking so good. The water's misted up at the minute, so the darker areas are more dark than they would be. This, when it's clear, it's going to look insane. Whilst it's clearing though, I think it's now time to prep the immersed plant, the peace lily. Whoa, we've got loads to choose from. Ah, right here. Yes, they've got loads of them, that's awesome. Really nice little size as well. Perfect, and we've got our little flowers coming at the top. You are the chosen one. Good price as well. So we've got our plant. Now the next thing we need to do is remove all of the soil out of here. Now start off with your hands and then we just get it in a bucket of water. I'll show you, I've done this before, it works. I didn't think it would work, but it works. And if you need any proof that it works, here it is. My Amazon aquarium. It's looking dull there, excuse the reflection, but the main thing I'm showing you is this lot. These are all peace lilies. Look at the absolute size of them. So down there, look, you can see, oh, I just smashed the lens on the tank, that's bad. Yeah, down the back there, right in the center there, you can see the white roots. Now that's just where the whole plant is submerged in the water and just sort of pinned to the back of the tank in between that gap. So we know it works. So let's just do it on a smaller scale than this. Right, so we've got a bucket of water, we've got our plant. Now, all you want to do, take the whole thing out, give the pot a little bit of a squeeze, look. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze it all around. Should break free. Now look, there's a great root system in there already. We don't want to lose any of that. Fortunately, this soil breaks off quite easy, so break off most of it as you can, like loosely, into the bucket. And then you'll get to a point where it's kind of like interlocked with the roots. There we go, look, I can break some out. And this will actually be more than one plant. Look, it looks like one plant, but I can already feel it separates there. And now my phone's ringing and my hands are covered in soil. Great! Anyway, phone call ended. Where was I? Yeah, look, most of it now is coming off. And we've got the two plants. Let me separate them because we can actually space them out then better in the aquarium. Actually, there's more than two. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 5. Right, just a case of keep dipping it like this and breaking bits off. I shouldn't have tried to do both at the same time. Now I'm making a mess. There we go, it's all coming off. There we go, look, there's a little plant, look. Wash, wash, wash. I'll take it over to the sink as well and wash off every last bit, all those bits clumped in. I don't want any of that getting into the water column at all, but I'll do the majority of it here. That's that one done. Remember, keep those roots, we want those roots. And it's just a case of keep doing that same process on all of the plants. It doesn't take too long, look. That's what the water's good for, just breaking it all apart. All right, would you look at that? That is looking at... Sorry for that impression. I don't know where that came from, but it's staying in. They look so good, don't they? Right, we can just place them in how we want. I want to, you know, obviously make the biggest piece right in the center and then build to the left and right of it. Oh, that is looking awesome, and it's starting to clear up. It'll be a little while yet, but in the meantime, I want to add in some botanicals, and I've got here, look, catappa leaves. Now, these are really good for fish health, and they release tannins in the water, which make it really good, apparently. I don't know the ins and outs of it, I've got to admit, but I know they're good. Thing is, you can boil them, but that kind of removes the purpose of what you're trying to do with them. It takes the goodness out. Or you can do what I do and just, well, the point of boiling them is so that they sink and you don't just get a floating load of leaves on the top. What I like to do is just glue a tiny little pebble to the back of one of them, and then that just weighs it down, and it just, eventually it'll just be sunk on its own. So that's what I'm going to do now. Nice little one down here, that'll look great. Oh, looking really good. Now what we'll probably find is the betta fish will actually hide under there as well. There's one more thing I want to add, and that is some little rabbit poos. They're actually alder cones, but to me, as I've mentioned in the last build video of the shrimp tank, they look like little rabbit poos. And a couple just dotted around should look just enough. I don't want to go silly with it, so yeah. Oh, look at that. We're looking good, aren't we? Some of you might be thinking, you haven't put a heater in here. Remember, I'm in a studio here. and the whole room is heated to tropical temperatures, and therefore I don't need to put heaters in the tanks because the room is like, it's warmer than your house temperature, put it that way. Most of the time up here I'm sweating, even in the winter. Right, so next up, there's one thing we need to add to this that, you know, most Betta tanks need, not all of them, but you know, this one I think is a lot of sort of brightness in this foreground area where the fish is going to be. It looks closer to the front than it actually is. If I come to the side look, you can see it actually goes like 3/4 of the way back, but when you're in front look, it looks like it's right forward. So there's quite a lot of room there, but it is quite bright. So I want to add in some floating plants, and for that I'm going to use mini water lettuce. I've got some up here, look, in my little shrimp bowl here. There's no filter in this one at all, apart from the plants and these awesome floating plants at the top here. This is the mini water lettuce. I've just cleaned this bowl out, so there's not that many in this one, so I'll leave that for now, but I've got some more over here in my African fish aquarium. There we go, look at these Congo tetras. Male, female there. Absolutely stunning, look at them. Hang on, let me get a better shot for you. Look, there's the male, all those awesome colours. Females are slightly duller looking, they're bigger as well. I'm just currently trying to get the males up to sight. Anyway, this is another video. But look at the back here. Oh, I just cleaned this one out as well actually. There's not a huge amount, but I don't need many, so I might take just half of that. Will work really well. These, they regenerate in no time at all. This like exponential growth. Double, 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 double. No duckweed. Out. If you do this and there's duckweed in your plants, get the duckweed out. It just takes over. Unless you don't mind scooping it out constantly, of course. Okay, by tomorrow morning, this should be looking crystal clear and we should be able to put the Betta fish in. And boom, there we go. As suggested, crystal clear. Loving that. Now, before we add in the Betta fish, there's a few more aquatic creatures. There's a few more aquatic creatures that I need to add in first that I think are essential to planted tanks. I absolutely love them. I'm talking about, of course, snails. Now, I feel like snails have a really bad reputation in the aquarium world, online anyway. I get messages from people all the time and they're like, my whole tank is overrun with snails. What do I do? How do I get rid of them? Now, more often than not, it's because the tank's just been overfed. Like, you think a fish needs a lot of food. Now, I'm guilty of it as well. So you put in big chunks of it and there's loads of waste left after they've had their feed. This means the snails can now go to town. They'll start reproducing and then their babies can also go to town and their babies, and it just goes on and on. Now, if you don't overfeed the tank, what happens is, yeah, your snails will still have eggs. You'll see them stuck on like the leaves and stuff. They'll produce even more babies. Those babies won't have a food source because the adults will get it all first. They'll eventually just die off and you won't even notice, to be honest, because they won't be able to get to a size where they've got like hard shells everywhere and that sort of thing. So if you're worried about overpopulation of pest snails, no such thing in my opinion, then don't be. Just don't put too much food in. Unless you want loads of snails like me, then do put lots of food in. So my shrimp tanks here have got quite a few snails at the moment. I've just fed them so the snails are all collecting. This is my sort of forest style aquascape, and then this is my proper sort of full-on breeding tank. We've got lots down here. Again, they've just been fed, so the snails have come into the area. We've got loads in here. See, this tank, they're breeding in here because the snails are, and the shrimp, to be honest, because I'm feeding it heavily. I'm trying to get those shrimp population numbers to explode, and as such, so will the snails. So I'm going to pinch out some of the snails that we've got in this one because there's quite a few. I'm going to take about 5 or 6 different sort of sizes. Oh, there's a really nice one up there, look. You shall be the chosen one. Oh, look, and right next to it there, can I zoom in enough? I don't think. There's a little blue baby shrimp. Oh, isn't he cute? Brilliant. There we go, look, and these guys are really going to help with that initial diatom phase that we'll go through, because we've got loads of silica sand and, you know, all that cereal stone. It will probably cause a diatom outbreak. Oh look, they're already getting to work. I've literally just dropped them in. There's nothing on them yet, but like, you might be thinking, oh, where they're going to get the food from because it's a new setup. Literally within days we'll start getting more than enough food for these guys to be munching on. Right, that's all set now, ready for our fish. And the fish that I'm going to be putting in there is down in this tank. Now, the reason I'm moving it out of there is 2 things. One, this all needs sorting out. I do not like having tanks down here. I've got my Apistogramma in this one here. These are the Cacatoides. And then we've got this one here. Oh, yes, I absolutely hate having tanks down the bottom here. I'm just trying to sort out some stands, building stuff to move all these up higher, but they're getting neglected, they're getting ignored, and I don't like it. So this bad boy here, look at that. It's really hard to, it's so bright on the camera. Let me just turn it all down a bit so we can get a bit of detail on him. Look at that. So he's a Dumbo white. I don't know the names of all these different kinds of betta fish. All I know is that he's amazing. He's going to look really good in that setup, isn't he? Let's catch him and put him in. He'll like it a lot better because I'll be able to pay more attention. I'll be able to see what's going on. Betta fish, I find that when you're feeding them, you need to see them. You need to see what's going on. You can't just put some food in, hope they find it, because they're not really like that. And mine don't really like to pick off the bottom either. You'll only eat when it's actually put at the top. So yeah, I'm going to move into that tank. It'll be right next to me and all good. Look at him. He looks fantastic in there. I've got a colourful Betta as well. I've got a Hellboy one that's face is no longer red. Anyway, I was going to put him in there for the colour pop, but I thought, you know what? It really will look good with this guy in there. Just, I don't know, it looks a lot more sort of natural. I don't think these are a natural kind of Betta fish. Really ironing up that snail right there. Now, some people expressed concerns when I did a picture of the Hardscape on my Instagram. If you're not following my Instagram, there's a link in the description. And wow, look at him. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. He's a beauty, isn't he? Look at that. Yeah, so they were worried that because of the cracks at the back in the rocks, that he might get stuck. Now, I've actually sat back and watched. He's gone behind the back already and then come forward. So you can't get stuck behind there. I left a really good gap and there's loads of different routes in and out. It's going to be fun for him actually to be exploring that. And seems to be liking that floating plant as well, which is awesome. Yeah, brightness levels really good, loads of cover. It's going to be a perfect setup, I think. He's going to absolutely love it. We've got the tannins, the botanicals in there as well, releasing the tannins. These snails have not moved from that spot, guys. You're going to explore your new home or not? It's really nice. Go for it.